Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to bring to you the current topic or the COVID-19 impact. But today's our topic is very different but very meaningful. The topic is Vastu and modern architecture. Vastu Shastra literally means science of architecture, is a traditional Indian system of architecture originating in India. Texts from the Indian subcontinent describe principles of design, layout, measurements, ground preparation, space arrangement, and septal geometry. Vastu Shastras incorporate traditional Hindu and in some cases Buddhist beliefs. The designs aim to integrate architecture with nature, the relative functions of various parts of the structure, and ancient beliefs utilizing geometric patterns, yantras, symmetry, and directional alignments. Vastu Shastras are the textual part of the Vastu Vidya, the broader knowledge about architecture and design theories from ancient India. Vastu Vidya knowledge is a collection of ideas and concepts with or without the support of layout diagrams that are not rigid. Rather, these ideas and concepts are models for the organization of a space and form within a building or collection of buildings based on their functions in relation to each other, their usage, and the overall fabrics of the Vastu. Ancient Vastu Shastra principles include those for the design of mandir, Hindu temples, and the principles for the design and layout of houses, towns, cities, gardens, roads, waterworks, shops, and other public areas. Theories tracing links of the principle of composition in Vastu Shastra and the Indus Valley civilization have been made, but a scholar Kapil Vatsyayan is reluctant to speculate on such links given the Indus Valley script remains undeciphered. According to Chakravarti, Vastu Vidya is an old, the Vedic period and linked to the ritual architecture. According to Michael W. Mester, the Earth Veda contains verses with mystic cosmogony which provides a paradigm for cosmic planning, but they did not represent architecture nor a developed practice. Varahamina's Brihat Samhita, dated to the 6th century CE, states Mester is the first known Indian text that describes something like a Vastu Purus Samandala to plan cities and buildings. The emergence of Vastu Vidya as a specialized field of science is speculated to have occurred significantly before the 1st century CE. Vastu Shastra represent a body of ancient concepts and knowledge to many modern architects, a guideline but not a rigid code. The Pink City Jaipur in Rajasthan was master planned by Rajput King Jai Singh and built by 1727 CE in part around Vastu Shilpa Shastra principles. Similarly, modern era projects such as the architect Charles Coles designed Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya in Ahmedabad, Vidhan Bhavan in Bhopal, and Jawahar Kala Kendra in Jaipur adapt and apply concepts from the Vastu Shastra Vidya. In the design of Chandigarh city, Le Corbusier incorporated modern architecture theories with those of Vastu Shastra. During the colonial rule period of India, town planning officials of the British Raj did not consider Vastu Vidya, but largely grafted Islamic Mughal era motifs and designs such as domes and arcs onto Victorian era style buildings without overall relationship layout. As per one survey, 93% of the home buyers in metro cities of India seek Vastu compliant home. In an attempt to make their students well-rounded architects, IIT Kharagpur has included Vastu Science in the curriculum of their architecture students. Among architecture circles, there has not been a more heated debate than the relevance or irrelevance of Vastu Shastra to the building designs of today. On one side, there are renowned architects like Charles Correa and Geoffrey Bawa, who have famously used Vastu Shastra in a number of their public projects. On the contrary, are most contemporary architects who, in a reaction to the Vastu Dosh fear mongering by local Pandits, vehemently deny the validity of Vastu altogether and love to whine about their believer client ruining their design for Vastu compliance. So, Vastu and modern architecture, we have a very elite, knowledgeable, experienced panel today with us, and I would like to invite my first guest, and he would like to explain in detail about whether the Vastu is good or bad for the modern architecture. So Vastu and modern architecture, my first guest is Mr. Arun Nayak. Mr. Arun Nayak is also known as Arun Kantilal Vyas, is an exponent of Vastu Shastra and has been associated with NARDICO and HSMI as a Vastu teacher since 2004. For close to 16 years, he has been delivering talks at NARDICO HSMI on the relevance of Vastu Shastra, evolution of a property as per Vastu, and non-demolitive management of Vastu-related faults. He has designed a wide array of residential, commercial, and industrial projects. He has authored several articles on Vastu Shastra and Oriental philosophy and has just finished writing a 3-volume treatise on Vastu Shastra. He has developed VIMSES, Vastu Energy Management System, which is a unique technology to attune the living and working space with inner space of consciousness and neutralize the negative effects of Vastu defects. Mr. Arun Nayak is also a trained yoga teacher from Sivanand Ashram, a certified advanced pranic healer from Institute of Inner Studies in Philippines, and a serious photographer. He also devotes time for social causes. His work and spiritual life is deeply influenced by the ancient Indian scriptures and the spiritual writings of Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo. And for over 4 decades, he has been associated with Sri Aurobindo Ashram and Sri Aurobindo Society. He has spent 10 years in the service of Sri Aurobindo Ashram in Pondicherry. He is the chairman of Noida branch of Sri Aurobindo Society and also holds several key important positions in this spiritual organization, where he also conducts study camps on Gita and Upanishads and self-development for students, young professionals, and for the mature minds. I welcome Mr. Arun Nayak on our show. Mr. Arun Nayak, you have heard what I have mentioned in the report. Now we would like to know Vastu and modern architecture. Mr. Arun Nayak, please. No, we can't hear you, Mr. Arun Nayak. Your voice is not coming now. Mr. Arun Nayak, your voice is not coming. No, can you hear us, Mr. Arun Nayak? Your voice is not coming. So either you remove your headphones and then speak, or just see you have put, yes. Now you speak, please.
Can you hear me now?
Now, yes, we can hear you. Please, okay. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Goel, for introducing me, and I welcome both the panelists, my co-panelists who are here, and all the people who are connected to this live broadcast of this program. Vastu, as you said, Mr. Goel, is indeed a very hot subject which has become now. Unfortunately, we have never been able to see, I mean, I'm talking of the public domain. In the public domain, we do not see Vastu in its entirety. to begin with, when you said what is the relevance of Vastu, I will ask one counter question. What is the relevance of Ayurveda today? If you say that has Ayurveda become extinct, the answer would be no. Similarly, all the other sciences, which are the Indian historical sciences, what we call as the Sanatan sciences, none of them has become obsolete. The problem that we have encountered is that, as you said, during the British period, it was the Islamic architecture and the other systems of architecture which were used predominantly in the public buildings, and the ancient system of architecture was completely neglected. It has continued to happen today, and the very proof that it has continued to remain ignored and the public has not been informed about it is the very text that you read now, when it says that drawings are not required, and it calls it as a ritual architecture or called it as the Artha Veda. And there are, as you said, I was making a short note saying that there are guidelines but not a rigid code. None of this is correct. Vastu is a proper system of architecture. It is the most, it is the ancient and the oldest system of architecture in the world, which has continued to survive, which continues to deliver results. Now, when we say Vastu continues to deliver results, what does it mean? Vastu is a science of designing, not just buildings. I will come to that in a while. But the aim of Vastu has been to design structures where man can be at peace, where the internal space of man can be at rest with the external space where he lives, where there's a rhythm and a connection established between the outer space and the living space, the inner space. The inner space is what we call as the Chidakash, the space inside, the Chittaka Akash. Akash in Sanskrit doesn't mean sky, it means the space. So you have the Bahya Akash, which is the outer space, and you have the Chidakash, which is the inner space. Vastu aims to establish a link between these two. And we all know that the Bahya Akash, which in other form we may call as the environment around us, the living environment or the habitat or the working environment, it has a very strong influence on our inner way, I mean, the way we feel, the way we think, Vastu has taken it to a very great length and very scientifically designed methods by which these two spaces can be attuned. And there are methods to do that. We will not go into the details, but that's because that will take us away from the subject. Vastu is being seen in a very microcosmic manner today. If we look at I will briefly touch upon the ancient scenario of Vastu, what Vastu has been. And then I will also touch upon the expanse of Vastu, what Vastu has. And then, if need be, we will go up into the scientific analysis if time permits us. You see, unlike most of the Sanskrit scriptures and the Sanskrit text which is lost in India, Vastu texts, most of it has remained preserved, primarily because they were with some selected families. These are the families called as the Vastu Veda. I mean, I come from one such old tradition. The tradition where I come from is a very ancient tradition, and we have maintained the books and the scriptures with us, and they have continued to remain with us. Therefore, the text did not get lost, which can take us back and tell us what has been the antiquity of Vastu. In Matsya Puran, there are references to 18 masters of Vastu. And when you look at those names, they are the rishis, which in the Hindus very often use those names as their gotra. You have the many names are there. They don't come to my mind offhand. Not only that, there are at least 20 or 22 original texts of Vastu which have survived. And you also find reference of Vastu in the Agam Shastra. Agam Shastra are the tantric. In the books of Agam Shastra, Agam refers to the tantric system. There are references to how the altar should be made. There are references to the temple Vastu, of course, we know as the Devalaya Vastu. There are also references to what should be the dimension or the proportion of the deity's statue when the statue is being designed. That speaks about the ancient or the historicity of Vastu. When we talk about the expanse of Vastu, you see, we have Vastu for selection of the land. It right begins from there. What should be the quality of land? I will come to why we are looking at the land and what is the need to look at the land later on. First of all, we have the Vastu for selection of the land. Then we have Vastu for designing a building. Building has got several sections. We have separate Vastu for designing a Devalaya, which is a temple, Manushyalaya, which is for a home. And in Manushyalaya also we have different categories for different categories of people. There are different specifications of what should be the type of the house. Like for example, if you want to design a palace for a king, the rules will be different. But if you design the same house for an ordinary person, the rules would be a little different in terms of measurements and in terms of the layout. So you have the Bhumi Vastu, then you have the Manushyalaya Vastu, in which you have the Devalaya Vastu and the Harmyadi Vastu. Harmyadi Vastu also means the house. You have the Vastu for designing houses. You have also the Vastu for designing furniture. You have the Yan Vastu and the Shayan Vastu. Yan Vastu refer to the moving vehicles. Palki kaisa hona chahiye, rath kaisa hona chahiye. And a very small section of the Yan Vastu also refers to the flying machines, what we now call as the Yan Vastu. Harmyadi Vastu, then you have the Shayan Vastu. Shayan Vastu refer to the design of furniture that is obsolete and it is no more in use now. I have been trying to very briefly say that Vastu is a complete science which has got its own expanse. It is not a small thing like what we see in the newspapers that ईस्ट डायरेक्शन में आप ये लगा दे तो आप प्रॉस्पेरिटी हो जाएगा, साउथ में आप ये करेंगे तो वो हो जाएगा, नॉर्थ में आप ऐसा लगा देंगे तो हो जाएगा. That is not even the जिसको कहते हैं तलछट भी नहीं है ये. It is that it is a complete science which has got its own and it continues to deliver results. When I say results, it continues to deliver, continues to. Even today, when you have a house or an office which is designed as per Vastu, we have seen that people think differently. Their mind is at peace. They are able to connect to the higher mind, able to take correct decisions because the intuitive faculties grow. The intuitive faculties become more strong and powerful. And it is only in silence that the mind becomes intuitive and is able to connect to the higher mind and able to take correct decisions in the long term, which show positive results. Coming to one word which you mentioned that Pandit's Vastu Dosh, fear mongering. See, both the parties are to be blamed. The one who is the fear monger is to be blamed because he has an incomplete knowledge of Vastu. The person who is using the word and saying that there is fear mongering being done is also equally to be blamed because they have not understood the depth of the subject. So just because somebody goes to the hospital and dies, does it mean that one should stop going to a hospital? Or does it mean that one should stop taking medicines? It doesn't happen. There are mistakes, people have made mistakes, and then there is also the fate which you cannot overrule. Various factors are there. My advice today would be that what we really need to do is establish institutes which do intensive research in the field of Vastu. Try and figure out what is right, what is not right, what is truth, what is untruth. Establish those truths in the public domain and let people understand as to how they can enrich their lives with the help of Vastu. We have also forgotten one major aspect of Vastu, which is called the Nagar Vastu. Today, Nagar Vastu is not practiced. I live in Noida, and I tell you, sir, when I had come to Noida, my first activity was I had gone to the authority and the Noida authority. I had gone and met the chief town planner, and I had said that this is my background and this is where I come from, and I've come to settle here. And I would want to offer my services as far as Nagar Vastu is concerned to the Noida authority to help them in designing the city. The first reaction was, and I'm talking of 2005, which is 15 years ago. In the last 15 years, Noida has gone tremendous expansion. Many changes have been made in the layout which was planned. But what happened at that time? I was told that the city master plan has been finalized and not an inch can be moved. That was a very nice way of blocking me and saying that no, we don't want your services. Thank you so much. Not because of what you're offering, not because of who you are, but because of what you're offering. The resistance was not towards me. It was to the science of Vastu, skepticism, whatever it may be. Those things have continued to happen today. हमारे यहाँ वास्तु शास्त्र है, ज्योतिष शास्त्र है, ये सारे ऐसे sciences हैं which are intangible. We cannot say that okay, this is a solid result you can, and they find it difficult to be, especially in astrology, even replicated. In Vastu, you can also replicate the results. Because of these factors, it has become very difficult for people to continue to have faith, especially after what has happened in the country when the foreign elements, they came and they started denouncing. When the invaders came, they broke the temples, they burned the libraries. When the British came, they destroyed the basic culture of this country. And this is a very fundamental part of the culture of the country. Vastu, Jyotish, Ayurveda, जितने भी सारे sciences हैं, and these are holistic sciences. These are not sciences which can be cut pasted. This is not like an industry which you create an industry and you impose it on something. Vastu is a science which belongs very much to the field of psychology, which belongs very much to the field of philosophy, very much to the field of spirituality. And unless one has a very deep knowledge of these things, it would not be proper of them to pass a remark on the authenticity of Vastu or on the non-authenticity of Vastu, etc. Coming to the last part which I want to touch upon, which you had mentioned in your brief, would be about advice to the government. I have already said this in a little while ago that I would want that the government and other institutions should set up institutes not just to teach Vastu, but also to do some serious research in Vastu. I mean, I'm sure that there are many other people like me in the country who would be very willing to come forward and give a helping hand and ensure that the glory of Vastu is realized and recognized and re-established in the country. If there are any further thing, I think we'll touch upon later on.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Arun Nayak, for giving the brief opening about the Vastu. And Mr. Nayak says that Vastu is a very, very ancient science, and it is wrong to say that this Vastu is rigid or it's not documented properly. He says everything is there. Only thing is we have to understand. And he says, yes, during the British time, when they have not accepted this and they followed the Islamic architecture and they have come out with the domes, etc. But otherwise, Vastu is a pure Sanatan science. And he says, if somebody will ask whether the Ayurveda is there or not, similarly, Vastu is there or not. So according to him, Vastu is as ancient and as good as Ayurveda or astrology. And he says that if we will use it properly, if it is done with a full knowledge, it is definitely beneficial. He explained the different kinds of Vastu, whether it's for the land, for the home. In home also, he has mentioned different places like the places where one has sitting or for the furniture. Everything he has explained, but he says that this is only possible if government will also take initiative. And he mentioned about his own experience that he has gone to the Noida authority when Noida was about to start building up, and he offered his services because he wanted to settle there, but they refused. They said every master plan is already ready. We cannot change even 1 inch of the plan. So he says that unless the government will take interest and understand that this is a science which is beneficial for everyone, we can, there will be a peace and harmony in a individual as well as for the country. Thank you very much, Mr. Arun Nayak, for giving your opening remarks in a very easy way, in a very simple way. I am sure that our viewers might have understood what is Vastu, and we will, in due course of time, we will understand more when we will come to you next time. Thank you very much, Mr. Arun Nayak. Now, I would like to invite my next guest. He is Professor Dr. Sudhir Sharan. Professor Dr. Sudhir Sharan is the former visiting professor, IIM Lucknow and University of Texas at Dallas, USA. He is the director of Eldo Private Limited, New Delhi. He has done his MBA from IIM Ahmedabad in 1980. He did PhD in 1986. He started teaching and researching business and entrepreneurship since 1984. He published research papers in reputed journals, international seminars, proceedings, and chapters in books of readings. He started academic administration phase as dean in 1997, rising to executive director, controlling management and engineering institutes in 2007. Her Highness Governor of Karnataka nominated Dr. Sharan to the Senate of Bangalore University in recognition of his distinguished academic contributions. He was visiting professor to University of Texas at Dallas from 2012 to 2019. He also visited Washington State University and President University, Indonesia, on the invitation of the Dean Faculty of Business in 2018. He innovated and implemented a unique model to double the turnover with existing infrastructure in one accounting year. He is co-promoter of Institute of Family Business Management Society. He is honorary director of NCR, Delhi-based high-tech B2B digital startup. He is also co-founder of OWGI Foundation, which promotes social entrepreneurship venture. And he was also the head of the Mahesh Yogi's Bangalore chapter for more than 4 years. And that's why he is going to talk today about the Vastu, which he has learned from Mahesh Yogi. Now, the Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, welcome to our show. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, you have heard what Mr. Arun Nayak has said, and he is very clear that the Vastu Shastra is a very, very ancient Sanatani science, and it is wrong to say that it is not it's a rigid or it is not proper to use. He says it is being used anciently, it is now being used now also. Only thing is that this science has to be propagated properly, as well as even for coming up with the new master plans, the government should also take initiative about this. Now, we would like to know from you the Vastu and modern architecture. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, please.
Thank you, Mr. Goel. And thank you very much for including me in the panel. I extend a warm welcome to my experts. And I'm sure together we'll be able to shed some light on this complex topic of Vastu and modern architecture. To bring focus, I'll begin with a potent quotation. My humble abode is not in walls, it is in me. My humble abode is not in walls, it is in me. This summarizes the wealth of wisdom which Maharshi Ji transferred to us who had the privilege to be around him. In order to understand what Vastu does and how it feeds into modern architecture, we must know certain truths which define Vastu today. Vastu is made up of 5 facts. First and foremost, it is the science of architecture. No two opinions about it, whether we call it ancient or we call it modern. In its a true character, it is a science, and a particular science, science of architecture. The second truth about Vastu is that it comprises of tried and tested techniques of bringing positive energy. Now, this is not the only one in the world. There are competing systems like Feng Shui, which also talk about bringing positive energy. The third is the Vastu is conceptualized to lead to healthier life. If somebody is genuinely interested in a healthier form of life, then Vastu is the way to go. Fourth, the Vastu science comprises not of 4 directions which you see on a compass defined as north, its opposite south, then right hand side is the east and left hand side is west. Vastu has expanded it twice as much, and there are called 8 cardinal directions. So these 4 principles together lead and give us the power, we the ordinary mortals, the power to design the entire environment around us to live a healthier and fulfilling life. That is why the quotation, in my humble abode, not there are walls, it is my entire being. Now, I will like to go about the incidents about Maharshi. Why it is important today is, you see, as Mr. Nayak proposed, it is very ancient. Puranas mention it. But you know, in our Indian culture, there was a period when we lost all our ancient wisdom, like, Westerners lost all the Greek wisdom, and Dark Age came. Maharshi Mahesh Yogi was the founder of transcendental meditation, and he is known for that. His disciples are legendary. Very few distinguished spiritual leaders of the country have the distinction which Maharshi Mahesh Yogi obtained in his own lifetime. Maharshi Mahesh Yogi not only invented transcendental meditation, which millions of today following all forms of meditation were revived by just one single man's lifetime work, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi. So that is the individual for those of your audiences who don't know who Mahesh Yogi ji was. Second, Maharshi Mahesh Yogi ji thought that only meditation is not going to lead us to the healthiest life, to the fulfilled life. So he also researched and found the golden principles of Vastu. So Maharshi must be credited with reviving the Vastu movement in the world and particularly India. When Maharshi ji spoke to us, I was one of his 5 lieutenants, so to say. He said that our own buildings may be controlled, cannot be controlled. That is where you mentioned, and Mr. Nayak also fleetingly mentioned, the conflict between the dosha school and remedy school. Maharshi Mahesh Yogi said, we will remain to be men. I don't know which piece of land I'll be able to buy. That depends on hazar factors. What if I have purchased the wrong plot? Am I doomed to live a miserable life? And Maharshi did his own research, and Maharshi Vastu principles were derived again by digging deeper into the things in our ancient history. And he found all the remedies, so to say, including the Vastu pyramid and Havan and other experts' methods, which I'm sure people like Mr. Nayak and Ms. Ankita will educate us about. Okay. Now, so this was the first thing that Maharshi emphasized. The goal is to live an exalted human life. Transcendental meditation contributes to that one. Vastu, science of architecture, contributes to that one, because one of our 3 needs is makan, other 2 being roti and kapda. Okay, this is how important he held that to be. Now, you must understand Vastu and modern architecture by going to its roots, because any study must begin at the roots of the things. So the mythological story goes, I'm sure many of you will know it, but hearing from me, you will get it in the proper context. Lord Brahma is considered to be the creator of the universe. There is no two opinion about it. I'm sure it is undisputed fact of our understanding and belief system. Lord Brahma created the entire universe. One of his creations was named Vastu Purusha. Vastu Purusha was having a peculiar quality in him given by Brahma himself. And that was, it expanded very fast, expanded so much that it covered the entire universe. Not only that, a creature of that size has a huge appetite. So it started eating everything which came its way. Maharshi ji told me this story, and I researched myself independently, and I found it is accurate a statement of our historic ancient facts. These are not in dispute, like many other things about Vastu. Now, once this happened, there was a crisis. So gods ran to the Brahma's home and said, this is what is happening, please do something. So a army of gods got together and tried to control the Vastu Purusha. They pinned him down on the ground. And then there were 8 Dikpals who were called. 8 directions are controlled by one Dikpal, and they were called to control this person. So that is how you see the concept of 8 Dikpals comes, and the gods got a specific place. I can see my co-panelist smiling. I'm sure she has scientific evidence to prove this point. So this is where it all stands. Vastu is a science of architecture. It is designed to make our lives happier. It is designed to bring positive energy. And there may be different schools of doing that one. But Vastu holds its unique position compared to other, sciences of bringing positive energy. So thank you, Mr. Goel, that you placed me as a connecting pin between a wizard of ancient knowledge, Mr. Anunak, and a shining young talent of science of architecture, Ms. Ankita. So I'll stop here with this. Hope I did the connecting pin job with the ancient wisdom and modern architecture. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm privileged.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. Yes, as you said, you have worked as a connecting pin between the ancient and the modern. And what Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran says, because he was one of the 5 disciples of Mahesh Yogi, Mahesh Yogi was known as a person who has started the transcendental meditation. I also learned that was called TM, the concept was to get the peace, the eternal peace, so that the person can be healthy. But at that time, according to Dr. Sharan, Mahesh Yogi found that only by doing the TM or the transcendental meditation, one cannot have the peace or healthy life unless some more things, some more factors to be searched. And that's why he searched Mahesh Yogi, and he found that the Vastu plays a very, very important role in an individual's life. And when he searched, he found that Brahma, who has created the universe, according to Dr. Sharan and Mr. and Mahesh Yogi, when he created the universe, he created one person called Vastu Purush, and that Vastu Purush was developed or was increasing in the size in so big that he has become like earth, more than earth or more than universe, and he started eating. At that time, Brahma ordered the Devtas to pin him down. They came and they pinned him down. At that time, they put 8 Dikpals who are going to control. And according to Dr. Saran, there are no 4 corners of wall, which we always see in a house. There are 8 directions, not only north, east, west, and south, but there are 8 as far as the ancient Vastu is concerned. So according to Dr. Saran, Mahesh Yogi was one of the pioneer, you can say, who has reinvented the Vastu, which was lost because of the Mughal as well as the British era, and he has given example that like how the Greek history was lost, or the Greek philosophy was lost, and it became a dark age. Similarly, it came to India in the same way. And according to him, if a person follow Vastu, he will get not only the mental peace, but the physical health also. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran, for giving your linkage, as you say, between ancient and the modern. So now we have to move to the next panelist, and I will like to invite Miss Ankita S. Miss Ankita S is the founder of A-Works Design Studio in Bangalore. She is a seasoned architect and reputed interior designer. She did her B Architecture in 2008 from Delhi. She worked with several reputed architecture firms. She featured in Architecture Digest and Times of India. Her portfolio of work is pan-India. She believes in going the extra mile for client. She values building lasting relationships. Ms. Ankita has worked on high-end residential villas, retail stores, and office design projects with Vastu experts. As a result, she has garnered good experience in Vastu, which she incorporates in her design. Welcome, Miss Ankita, on our show. Miss Ankita, you have heard what Mr. Arunayak as well as Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran has mentioned. And both were of view that this Vastu Shastra is the only science which is from the very beginning. And they both says that this is a science. We cannot term it as a some superstitious or something which is been imposed by some fake pundits, but it is a science, pure science. And Mr. Arun Nayak has explained in clarity, totality, how it has started and how the Vastu plays a very, very important role in not only constructing the or purchasing the land, but constructing the house, but also developing a city. Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran explained, and he says that Maheshi Mahesh Yogi reinvented the Vastu, which was lost during the British and Mughal era, and he gave the clear picture that how the Vastu can work by giving the old story about Brahmas and Dikpals, as well as how it can work in the modern time. Now, you being an architect, and you represent the youth or the new generation of the modern architecture, we would like to know from you the Vastu and modern architecture. Miss Ankita S., please.
Good afternoon, good morning, everybody. Now, I am so humbled to be in the presence of such experts, and please, I would request for my knowledge, whatever I have garnered, is purely from experience and purely from interacting with experts, if not of the same stature as Mr. Nayak, but I mean fairly proficient in their studies, and they knew about Vastu. And the more I interacted with them, the more I realized that what they were saying was so true. It made so much sense, and all my clients, they actually benefited from living in a Vastu compliant home versus a home that had Vastu dosh in it. Eventually, the houses that had conflicting Vastus, the people living there had, although the designs scientifically were done to the T and it was the best design possible, but the living experience in that space wasn't as of the quality as it should have been. And the more I researched, the more I interacted with the Vastu experts, I realized that yes, in fact, it is true, and it is worth going into. It is, in fact, worth spending time in learning this art and science and incorporate that in my design, and make sure that when I design and when my clients come and stay in a place or in a house that I design, they truly flourish, they truly have a positive life. So coming from that, it changed my point of view. I was a huge skeptic. I was a huge skeptic about Vastu, but then from experience, I realized that no, in fact, Vastu, as my fellow panelists have reinforced, it is irrefutably a science, and it needs to be incorporated into our designs as well. Now, I'm going to be making a presentation. My presentation is fairly, straightforward. It's about what you can do in a house, a space that you are living in, how you can improve it, what are few pointers that you can keep in mind, and what are the things that you can do to improve your lifestyle. I might be stepping into certain things that might not be correct. Please forgive me for that, Dr. Arun Nayak. Please, like I said, I am no expert here. This is purely from the research and learnings that I have done, in my 12 years of work experience, right? So, what if it is okay? I will start sharing my screen now.
Yes, please.
Yeah. Please do let me know once you can see it.
Yes, now yes, we can see.
So basically, what I would be talking about is how we balancing the design and Vastu. Like now, like I said, uh, it is very important that when you are designing a space, obviously there are going to be limitations. In the current situation, like Professor Sudhir Sharan also said, that Mahesh Yogi went into Vastu because he controlled which land he got. It could have been a property which had a lot of Vastu dosh. But again, in the beauty of Vastu is that everything has a counter. If you have certain dosh, you can rectify it. There are ways of improving the place still. It is such a positive science that it doesn't say, no, do not do that. This is absolutely wrong. No. All right, you have restrictions. Let's find a cure to it. Let's find a remedy to this. That's how one progresses. That's how it shows that this is in fact not a superstition like people call it, because a superstition in itself says, no, do not do this, this is absolutely wrong. Whereas science always has a reason behind things. So when I'll be talking about how we balance design with keeping in Vastu in mind. Just give me 1 second, I'm so sorry, 1 second. So, yes, so space planning for the well-being. What I'll be covering, basically, what is Vastu about, the beliefs and reason. Space planning, what are the few pointers that you should have in mind when you're planning your house, and certain tips that you can keep in mind. The human spirit needs places where nature has not been rearranged by the hands of man. To enhance your living, you need to let nature be. You need to let nature take its own course. Vastu lets you do that. Vastu gives you places where it's positive, what works for them, and if you incorporate those things, then you make sure that you have a positive lifestyle. Very briefly, the 5 main elements of that are major in Vastu: air, Vayu, fire, Agni; water, Jal; sky, Akash; and earth, Bhumi. All of these help us enhance our 5 senses. Now, if you see what is Vastu, Vastu is the science of dwelling. Even our gods, in our ancient times, when we designed temples, we kept that in mind. The directions that the gods were placed in, the shikhar's position, the position of your Ardha Mantapa or the entrance to the temple was based on this science. If you go into studying Vastu, this is where the place would be to start. The temples, how, because the god was the most holy thing in this world. You place them at the most positive point in where they would have the most positivity. So they studied this and they developed the temples, the home of gods, in the same way. Now, like Professor Sudhir Sharan had said, in Vastu, it isn't about 4 directions. It's not just about north, south, east, west. It's also about all the 8 cardinal directions, right? Now, one of the points that you keep in mind when you have a plot and you are designing, the slope of a site. Now, there can be 2 slopes in 2 ways. One good slope is your Dhanaviti. Basically, your west side is higher up and your south is elevated. So basically, the corner of the southwest corner that you see is the highest point, and the northeast corner is the lowest point. So if I drop some water here, it should trickle in this direction. Then this is called the Dhanaviti. What it does is it brings you material growth and prosperity, And it also brings you growth of wealth. It brings you a lot of prosperity. However, if this is reversed and my northeast corner is the highest and my southwest corner is the lowest, what this is called as the bhutaviti, which basically leads you to loss of wealth and also sometimes loss of life, basically very poor quality of life. Everything in Vastu talks about increasing your quality of life. And there is a lot of science. Why do you place your lightest corner? Why do you want the lightest corner to be northeast? Why do you want your center, the space, the Brahma corner to be empty? Where if you see our old homes, you had a courtyard in the center, and then you had all your house rooms around that. All of those plans, all of that planning was based on Vastu. Now, these are the few pointers that you can keep in mind, basic locations that you should ideally have your rooms in these particular directions. However, if you do not have that, like I said, there's always counters. Now, in your northwest corner, you should have your toilets, your guest bedroom, if you have a pet, your pet shelter, and your garage should go in a northwest corner. In your north should be your treasury, wherever you keep your lockers in your house, or a study area should go in the north corner. In your northeast corner, you should have a portico, an open space, and you should have your puja. This is the most ideal. What I'm talking about here is the most ideal location of places. In the east, you should have your dining, you should have your bedroom, and you should have your bathrooms. In the west, your study, that's the best location to have. Then in the center is your center should always be the lightest corner. That is the Brahmastan, they say. So if you want to place a fountain or an open space, that's the best place location to have. In your southwest corner is where your mirrors and your dressing areas should go, your storages should go, and your guest bedroom or your child's bedroom, or your southwest corner actually is good for your master bedroom as well. In your south, you can have your dining and a bedroom. In your southeast corner, you can have your garage or you can have your kitchen. Now, some of the beliefs, right? The best suited house is an east facing house. Your kitchen should never be next to a toilet. You should have God's idols and yantras in your house to enhance the vibes that you get into the house. Round tables are not recommended. Tables which are square and rectangle bring positivity into your dining space. They bring open communication and openness into your house. So round tables should be avoided. Mirrors in the bedroom, anything that is reflective should be avoided in your bedrooms. And obviously, which is the most common, and a lot of people are aware of this, sleeping with your head to the north. Because of the magnetic direction, it brings you a lot of headache, a lot of health issues. So one should avoid sleeping with your head towards the north. Now, when you're designing few of the pointers, keep your living room in the north or the northeast of your home. Entrance door must open towards the inside for positive vibes. Place the sofa in the southwest of your living room. Keep your pujas in the northeast corner of the house or in the living room. Use bright colors for positive mood. Bright colors play such an important role. Ensure that there is a lot of natural light, and always keep your staircase in the northwest corner of the house. Now, having said this, this is something that you can do when you're designing your own house. However, if you're staying in an apartment or if you're staying in a society kind of place where you don't necessarily have the flexibility of choosing where you place what, then we will give you some options of where you can place and what are some good placements for rooms. Now, there are basically, when you're going for plots, there are two kinds of plots that work, for one for commercial and one for residential. What is the most ideal is what I'm talking about in this situation. Now, your lion face plot or your sher mukha, the plot that is wider in the front and the side that is facing the road, and the rear side of the is narrows down towards the rear side. These are best suited for your commercial properties if you want to construct an office or a shop space or something like that. But if you have a house, Gaumukha, cow-faced plots are one of the most um, prosperous ones. The plot that are narrow in the front and they go and broaden at the back. They are very good for residential purposes. Now, like I was saying, and this is very apt for today's day and age, right? Where we are living in an apartment situation. Now, when you look at an apartment like this, now you have 4 flats. Now, if I see the one on the top right corner, now that is the best as per Vastu. Yeah, you have your entrance from the northeast, your master bedroom is in the southwest, southwest, and it's the best. It's the best location possible. But you went to buy this house. I am so sorry, this is already booked. What do? You look for other options. You look for the other flats. Now, this particular apartment building that I'm showing has been designed with Vastu in mind. They have not, in fact, mirrored the flat below. They have actually moved the spaces in a way that it still remains Vastu compliant. If it's a south facing house, the kitchen has been moved to a different location. The master bedroom has been moved to a different location. Be compliant. If you are aware of Vastu and Vastu is important to you, when you're looking at a plan, make sure that you pick up a builder or a designer who has kept these things in mind. Now, having said that, like we were talking about dosha as well, right? So if you go read online, it will say, okay, so your northeast is the heaviest. Don't worry, put a bowl of water in the other corner to balance it out. No, please do not do that. My suggestion as a designer to you would be, please, arrange for a Vastu expert to come in, look at the entire space, because Vastu does not talk about one thing. It always talks in context to the entire space. It looks at where the windows are placed, it looks at where the doors are placed, how you are entering, what is the vibe of the place. So always, if you want a Vastu compliant home, please go to an expert, take their information from them, and then incorporate those things into your apartment. Now, this is a basic plan, which is of the best possible house. Like I said, entrance northeast, best. You have your puja in the northeast corner. Your master bedroom is in the southwest. Your kitchen is in the northwest corner. You have your other bedroom in the northwest corner. The kitchen is in the southeast. The other bedroom is in the northwest corner. Best situation possible. However, you might not have the liberty of doing that. In that case, what do you do? When you see a plan, your living rooms, if you get a living room which is north facing, northeast facing, east or northwest facing, these are good choices. If your house is south facing, then you can go for a living room that is in the southeast corner, or it can be in the southwest corner. Your puja room, the best suited position for the puja room is the northeast corner. The second best suited position is in the east, and then the third best portion is the north facing. Now your kitchen, the most ideal situation, southeast corner, or else it can be in the northwest corner. Now, when I talk about these directions, one point, I'll finish this, then I'll give you that pointer. If you're looking at the bedrooms, your child's bedroom should be in the west, your guest bedroom should be in the east, your master bedroom should be in the southwest direction. And if you have an unmarried child, a grown-up unmarried child, then their bedroom can go in the southeast corner. Now, when I talk about taking these directions, a lot of people think that, when you are entering into the house, you should face the entrance or facing outside and you should take the directions. Please do not do that. Your Brahmastan, the center of your house, you should stand there and take the direction from there. So when it points towards the north from that corner, that is in fact the north of your house, right? And with reference to all of this is how you take the directions of your house. Now, colors. Colors in interiors are one of the key features. It can make or break with the space, but it brings in so much energy into the space as well. So each corner, you have the chakras, right? Each of the chakras have a color. So similar way, all the directions, all the corners have colors which work very well. In your northeast corner, yellows, colors of tones of yellows work very well. In your north corner where your treasury is, right? So that green, shades of green work very well. Northwest corner should be white. Your west corner should be shades of blue, cool. It is the cool corner, right? Your Brahmastan, the most positive portion of your house, clean, neat, white. Your south corner is hot, corals, reds, pinks. Those are the good colors for them. Southwest corner, shades of brown, terracotta, colors, earthy colors. Work west for your southwest corners. Your southeast corner, your kitchens, grays, silvers, they work very, very well for your corners. Now, these are the colors. If you use them in different tones. Colors, there are thousands of colors. Have the shades in this. These will enhance the way you feel about this place. Like I said, knowingly or unknowingly, these colors, they help in the overall growth and development. If you feel positive in a space, you always grow, right? And these colors have such tremendous impact on our life. If we look back into our Vedic period, every day was associated with a color. Every festival has a specific color. So it proves that how important colors are even in our lives. So the color therapy, you need to use that also in Vastu. We talk about directions and everything, but please keep these things also in mind. Few of the elements that we use: water bodies, lots of plant, Buddha, the statues, yeah, the yantras and the gods, aromatherapy. Use all of these pointers. They will enhance your lifestyle when you're experiencing and you're living in your home. Thank you so much. I think I took longer than that was expected. If I overstepped, I am so sorry. I think I got a little carried away, I think.
Thank you very much, Miss Ankita. No, we are not bored, or we are not, you have overboard some minutes, but still it was very enlightening, educating, and I'm sure our viewers got a fair idea that if they are residing in a existing multi-story building or even a house, standalone house, they can very well do some changes. But as Ms. Ankita has suggested, please call a Vastu expert instead of applying your own mind, and see to it if the building is not constructed as per the Vastu Shastra, and get those things, small things done. Thank you very much, Ms. Ankita, because you have already shown everything on the screen, so I need not to explain again. So thank you very much. Now I would like to go to Mr. Arun Nayak, please. Mr. Arun Nayak, one moment, please. Yeah. Mr. Arun Nayak, my question to you is in twofold. First is, you have heard what Professor Saran has said and what Ms. Ankita has shown. So your comments on that. Secondly, my question is specific is Vastu just a culture-wide superstition or a long-lost science that still applies? So, so I want both the things, if you can give it this thing. Comments on what Professor Saran has mentioned and what Ms. Ankita has shown. So what are your expert comments on that? As well as my question, is Vastu just a culture-wide superstition or a long-lost science that still applies?
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay. If I had known that Professor Sudhir Sharan comes from Dr. Mahesh Yogi's background, I would have stood up in reverence right in the beginning, sir. I must tell you, from 1972 to 74, when I was studying in my college, of course, the period was longer, but from 1972 to 1974, I was very actively involved in the practice of transcendental meditation. And some very close friends of mine who later on went on to become the personal staff of Mahesh Yogi and shifted from Delhi to Rishikesh. Few observations I have here. Credit must be given to Mahesh Yogi ji for, I would not say reinventing Vastu, but for rediscovering Vastu and re-establishing Vastu. You see, you cannot reinvent a wheel. You can only rediscover a wheel which has been lost. And one of the biggest contribution here of him is that I've seen in the Western world, Vasati being practiced very widely. And more than anything else, I would say, is that the digitization of the texts which have been done by Dr. Mahesh Yogi's group is amazing. Long lost texts which were not available, I have downloaded a lot of them from Maharshi Mahesh Yogi's website, and I'm offering them to my readers through my website, of course, for free of cost. My only request is that if only those texts could have been made search friendly, which unfortunately doesn't happen every time when you do a PDF digitization. But amazing, amazing work which has been done, and my very profound thanks to Professor Zab for being here and giving us this. Now, one thing which was there was he mentioned about the Remedial Vastu pyramid. I have been doing a lot of work on the pyramids for the last many years. I have been making small pyramids and large size pyramids, but they have not been used for Vastu as a remedial measure. I use them for medicinal purpose, for curative purpose, for meditation purpose. The fact is that contrary to whatever people may say, and I have logical reason and to prove myself, pyramids far exceed the current civilization as we know today. I'm referring to Dr. Madam Blavatsky's writings on the pyramid. I'm also referring to a few other texts which are available on the pyramid. The earliest known pyramid, whatever people may say, but there are evidences to say that the pyramid was made something like not less than 25,000 years ago. So pyramids have nothing to do with us. The pyramids are depository of knowledge which were left by the people of that time in the geometrical form. Geometry doesn't need any language; it has its own language, like symbols. So pyramids, whenever they say that we have Vastu and things like that being used for remedial actions for rectifying Vastu faults, I very strongly have a stand against that, and I have my reasons to say that. And also the concept of Vastu which has also beautifully told by Professor Sudhir Sharan. One thing we must realize, the ancient Sanatan text, whether it is the Ved, whether it is the Quran, or whether it is the Upanishad, whenever there is a story, it is a symbolical story and should be understood in its proper context as to what the story is trying to tell us. If we take a story in its literal format, we will miss the main point. Traditionally, we have heard that when we have faced that problem, the Western philosophers or the Western linguists who came to India and who started translating the Indian texts, the Sanskrit texts into English, they took them for the literary meaning, and they started saying that the Rig Vedas, they worship the cow, they worship the sun, they worship the wind, they worship the sky and the rivers and so on. So there must have been an agrarian economy which had no deep spiritual progress, which was absolutely wrong. They completely missed the point. Similarly, here also, when we talk of directions, there are not 8 directions, there are actually 10 directions. When we do a puja, we forget about 2 directions which normally are not considered in the Vastu. Vastu is basically a science of construction. So we have the 8 directions, but we also have the Anant and the Patal, completely 10 directions. Now the stories are very different. There are many stories in the Quran which say that Brahma had 8 daughters, Purva, Paschima, Uttara, Dakshina, and he wanted them to be married, and so he created people called men called the Devatas, called the Purush, the Purva, and the Paschima, and the Uttara, and the Dakshin, got them our daughters married, settled them in different directions, so they become the Dikpal and the Adhipati. There are these stories. Actually, what they are trying to say is very important. Each deity of a particular direction. If you see it east, you have the Indra. South, you have the Yama. Then we have the various other Each deity symbolizes a certain attribute of the divine, which belongs to a particular specific direction. We know that if we sit facing east, close eyes, let there be somebody who's a yogi, who's a sensitive person, put a blindfold the person, make him sit into meditation, put him on a turntable, let the turntable be sit facing east. And then turn the turntable, let it be facing south or the west. The fellow will be able to tell you that there is a change in the direction. Why? Because each direction has certain attributes. Now, these attributes are defined by these devatas. Indra has so and so direction, Yama has so and so properties, Varun has so and so properties, Goel has so and so properties, so on and so forth. This was one thing which I wanted to say. Coming to what architect Ankita has said, I was very happy and surprised to see such a beautiful, it was like a Gagar mein Sagar thing, you know, very beautifully done thing and so closely. Very rightly, she said round tables are not used. I would have preferred if she had gone into the theory of shapes. See, there's a proper theory of shapes. Why don't we use a triangle? You have the Prakriti and the Purush being depicted by these two triangles. Why don't we use a round table or a round shape? Because the round is a mystical figure. It has no beginning, no end. It is things like pi and phi and so many other things. So we come to a Brahma Mandal, which is the square, or an extension of the Brahma Mandal, which is a rectangle, which can go up to 1:1.5, not more than that. But then it becomes, you cross that and then it becomes a disbalance figure structure again. Shermukhi thing, Gomukhi thing, very beautifully said. I must compliment her for this. Coming to last thing, which I had this one, that was the colors which I used in last. See, if you really see the ancient texts, not one single text has any reference to any color or any particular direction. It doesn't have it. You check any of the ancient texts, you will not find that east should have so and so direction color and west should have so and so color. Colors are just not mentioned there. So where have they come from? Colors have come in, and this is a very recent phenomenon, if I may say that, from the need of a customer to say what color should I have. I'm sure all the customers should be should be asking Ankita, east mein, what should be the color of the wall, what should be color of the wall in the south, and so on. My point is that where have they come from? They have come from because we know that, okay, east is ruled by Surya, so Surya has so and so colors, yellow Surya ka color east mein laga do, south ka color south mein laga do, so on. But basically speaking, colors have not been there, and I think it is a matter of very deep research as to what colors should be used and in what proportion and how. Because if we go by the theory of colors as is propounded today, then we'll probably land up all the houses in the India at least having only 8 colors in 8 directions. Everybody in east will have one direction color, and everybody in south will have the other. Would be the same. But very, very, very well said, sir. So this was one. Coming to your question, whether it is a what did you say? Whether it is a
is Vastu just a culture-wide superstition or a long-lost science that still applies?
The culture itself is never a superstition. Culture is an organic thing which grows. Culture grows because of our experiences. Culture grows because of our beliefs. A belief is basically found when based upon observation and based upon experience. And we all being human beings, we cannot forget, we have our aspirations, but we have our fear also. So there are many fear factors which come into the picture when we talk about what goes into creating a culture. I'm reminded of the story of the Sufi saint called Rabia. Rabia was known for her, very illogical manners, and she was being a Sufi saint. She was accepted by people, and whatever she is doing is okay, fine. One day, people saw her running on the road with a mashal in one hand and a bucket of water in the other hand. People said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I want to put fire to hell." And water? She said, "I want to wash away heavens. मैं जन्नत में बहा दूंगी और दोजख में आग लगा दूंगी." Why? People worship God because either out of fear of going to hell or because of the greed of going to heavens. This very aptly tells us, how our cultures are formed. We have our fears and we have our greeds. So what we find today in terms of Vastu as a culture, what has happened today is what you have said, not what Vastu has been. हमारे इतने मंदिर खड़े हुए South Indian temples were built by my predecessors from the tradition that we come from. We cannot say that the temple of Khajuraho is built upon superstition. Or you look at the South Indian colossal cathedral temples, we cannot say that they were built upon superstition. And why go far? Even in Delhi, when you look at the Akshardham temple or the Ram Mandir, which is being designed in Ayodhya, it is not built on superstition. There is a perfect science which is going into that. However, the Vastu as is being practiced in the media today, the WhatsApp Vastu, the Google Vastu, the YouTube Vastu, she's laughing. These Vastus, see the Google University, WhatsApp University, the YouTube University, what is being practiced today is the Vastu that you have said, based upon superstition, based upon fear, or based upon greed.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Nayak, for giving in details the reply as well as comments. You have given your expert comments on about what Professor Saran as well as Ms. Ankita has spoken. Now my question goes to Professor Dr. Saran. Professor Dr. Saran, you have mentioned that the Vastu is very important. Now my question is, what happens if we don't follow Vastu? What is going to happen according to you, Professor Dr. Saran?
The answer can be given at three levels. At individual level, I will leave my peace of mind. And if I lose my peace of mind, if I'm not living the healthiest life, then all the people who are close to me, my family, my friends, are going to be affected by it adversely. And the ripple effect will start. The whole universe will become less than optimal. That is the answer. So follow Vastu for good sense.
So you mean to say, Professor Saran, that right now, because of the corona pandemic, those who are losing their life or who have lost their life are staying in a house which is not Vastu compliant?
I have a strong hunch that one of the contributing factors, because in science, complex things like life and death are controlled by more than one factor. So keeping that, what as a scientist, as our management expert, I say is there are multiple causes for the event to happen. Falling sick or losing life because of corona, I have a strong hunch if people study, they'll find Vastu played a factor, contributing factor.
So according to you, Vastu is one of the factor, not the factor.
Sir.
Even for the happiness or for the health, it is one of the factor, not the ultimate. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Professor Saran. Now I would like to go to Ms. Ankita. Ms. Ankita, as everybody agreed at that time that the Britishers and Mughals have not followed. And you also mentioned that the people wants to go for the architecture which is Vastu comply. Now my question to you is, British, they have not incorporated Vastu, but their buildings are very classy, durable, and adorable. Why? Even Mughal period buildings. I can give you the example whether we are talking of Red Fort or Taj Mahal or Connaught Place in Delhi or Victoria Terminus in Mumbai or in Calcutta. So many buildings. Still, those buildings are adorable and classy. They are not Vastu as you have mentioned. And the modern buildings you have seen, they have either, they are not that classy, and the conditions of those buildings are, everybody knows. Miss Ankita, please.
So your question, I mean, what do you want me to address?
See, my question is very simple. If Britishers have not followed the Vastu, which is as per the history, which everybody agreed, then why their buildings? I'm talking only in India right now. I'm not talking in UK and other places or Europe. Okay. In India, you have seen Connaught Place in Delhi. You have seen Victoria Terminus and other buildings in Mumbai, even in Calcutta, wherever they have constructed the building. And the Mughal period, Taj Mahal is there, Red Forts are there, Fatehpur Sikri is there. If they are not complied with the Vastu, why the tourists are going there? Why we want to go there, and why these buildings are most stable, adorable, classy buildings. We do not have any such type of building now. Why? I'm
Now,
talking about Vastu. I'm not talking of any other way. Yes, please.
understood. Now, if you look at all of these buildings, right? Now we have agreed that Vastu is not a superstition. Vastu is a science, right? So Vastu is the study of light, it's the study of air, it's the study of the space. Now, when these buildings were designed, the designer, the architect of those buildings, actually studied it. He might not have termed it Vastu, but if you go to Fatehpur Sikri, where the Rani ka Mahal is placed, where the water fountains are placed, they are all compliant to the direction. The water fountain was placed where the northeast wind would come in, so the rooms would be cool. I recently went to Hampi, and there is a huge bathing room for the queen of that time. When the Mughal came and they destroyed all the temples, they let that bathing space be there because it was compliant to the Islamic architecture. But when you go inside, you see that the directions that they were placed in were still the way the water would trickle in. The science was still there. Any building that is long lasting, you will see, sir, that the science is always there.
Good.
Positivity comes with science, right?
Yes, that is what I wanted to ask you, and you have given the answer. All these buildings, even if you see any of the buildings or monuments constructed by Mughals or Britishers, whether they openly admit or not, but they all followed the Vastu science at that time. They have not admitted openly, but if you see all the buildings, you rightly said about the Fatehpur Sikri, even if you see in Taj Mahal also, where they have placed the things, how the foundation were made, how the tomb were there. So everything is Vastu as per the research done by many of the people. Thank you very much, Ms. Ankita. So today you have seen how the experts have mentioned that Vastu plays a very important role. Although we have to, it is one of the factor for getting peace, good health, and it is something which one can very well see that we can go ahead for this because it's a science. It is not superstitious, which was termed in the media. Even if you see if you go for the Google search also, you will feel. And what Mr. Arun Nayak said was correct. Don't go what WhatsApp universities tell you. Go with consult an expert. And what Ms. Ankita has also mentioned, that instead of doing your own Vastu, consult an expert. Although the buildings which are constructed, and as per reports also, the majority of the buildings in India are Vastu compliance. But if it's still there, you please consult a Vastu consultant and take the advice and go ahead. After all, it's not costing that much. Plus, if it gives good harmony in the family and good peace in mind. Thank you very much. Thank you all my panelists. And I would like to thank our all the panelists who are presented today, giving their expert opinions, advice. And today's program, which has been live telecasted by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, as well as was shown live on YouTube and Facebook. And our endeavor is to bring you every day a new topic, an important and a current topic. And tomorrow, media conference with Lal Goel is with the topic is Incredible Progressive Bihar. As you all know, today Bihar is going for the first phase of the poll. We would like to analyze how the program Bihar can progress, irrespective of whichever government will come. But we want to see, because we know the past of Bihar was very full of glorified and glory. It was full of, it was a leading state of the country. Why it cannot progress? So we would like to analyze tomorrow and how it can progress. And our panelists are Dr. Rajiv Anand, Senior Psychiatrist, Mumbai, Mr. Bhupati Prasad Pandey, IES, former Additional Chief Secretary, Government of Maharashtra, Mr. Om Saraf, Industrialist, Mumbai, and Mr. Abhishek Singh, Secretary General, Bihar Entrepreneurs Association, BA, and Entrepreneurs Association of India, EAI, Patna. So please tune in tomorrow for media conference with Lal Goel at 10:30 a.m. Thank you very much, Mr. Arun Nayak. Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sudhir Saran. And thank you, Ms. Ankita S., for giving your expert advice and enlightening our viewers. Thank you, all our viewers. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.